Hi, this is Dave Johnson, and I'm with my friend Andrew Moleff. We met, golly, it's been about a dozen years. You came to my house on some occasion, I can't remember, but we stayed friends and kept in contact. Right now I'm excited because he's given us a really powerful new platform to communicate, which is one of the key things as far as building a business is talking to people. Over the last few months, Andrew's been sharing with us some numbers and stuff, and well, let me give you a little bit of background. Andrew is a numbers kind of guy. Maybe that's because you sold insurance for a lot of years with one of the great companies, making, I guess, about 7 figures a year doing that. So, golly, that's pretty good. But also with those numbers, tracking different things, because that's what insurance companies do. And I think one of the most interesting things is my favorite market, the baby boomers, and I guess because I'm one of them, but also this idea of the pig and the python. If you can be like Wayne Gretzky said, he got paid the big bucks not knowing where the puck was, but knowing where the puck was going to be. And people that can identify an idea ahead of time, that's a huge advantage. So, Andrew, talk to us about the baby boomers. Where are things going?
Let's talk about what is going on. For those of you that are younger on here that may not know, we've all heard who the baby boomers are. We've heard the expression the baby boomers. But the baby boomers was a person who was born after World War II. And what happened was the men were gone for 4 and 5 years, and they came home and got married, and they had babies. They came home from the war, and oh, women, great, and got married and had babies. And they had more babies in a shorter time period than any other time in U.S. history, and that's called the baby boom. And those were people that were born between 1946 and 1964. But what's going on today with them is they're retiring at a rate of 10,000 a day. 10,000 a day.
Or trying to retire.
Yeah, it's better yet, or trying to retire. Here are some of the things that are going on with them. We hear all the good things, pig and the python, and knowing where things are going to, and positioning companies before then.
Yeah, historically, mention some of that.
Like Gerber
baby food.
Pampers, diapers, Mattel toys, and the hula hoop. The baby boomers giving toys to these 80 million kids, what made Mattel a billion-dollar company. The Ford Mustang came out right when these people were turning 16 years old. Muscle cars and those type of things. You got to think that your grandparents didn't drive muscle cars. It was the baby boomers. Lee Iacocca understood this very well with Chrysler and made Chrysler a very small company to one of the big three. And that was, he had a product invented through Chrysler called the minivan. People don't understand. Before Chrysler's minivan, there's no such thing as a minivan. But minivan was designed for these 80 million people who started to have their own babies and to have a vehicle that they could run around in. The minivan was designed for that. And what's coming on right now, we have people who are turning 66 at 10,000 a day, and the last thing they want to do is get old. So we take a look at the healthcare industry right now. And that is going to explode on the scene because of the baby boomers. We've talked about before, Dave, they're fighting age.
It'd be more accurate to say the wellness industry. Healthcare, it's a misnomer because you define that as drugs and surgery, and a couple of $1 trillion is spent on that, but who wants to have another surgery or take more drugs? And so natural solutions, I love being in that industry because it really is the right place at the right time. And
they'll do anything they can to look younger, feel better, and not get older. Yeah, you're right. They don't want to take drugs, and they don't want to go in the hospital, and they don't want to get sick.
They don't want to age gracefully. They want to fight it all the way. I'm in denial myself.
They want to do everything they can to maintain their activity.
And a lot of studies indicate that this is true. You can be younger next year. In fact, there's a book by that title that I highly recommend, because lifestyle and products that you take can have a dramatic effect.
Let's turn and talk about what's going on with the baby boomers financially right now. And some of it is pretty scary.
Very.
For example, right now, 20% of all baby boomers, so 16 million people, don't even have $5,000 set aside for retirement. This is their IRA, their 401k, their SEP, their KEEL, their pension plan, their union plan, whatever it is. 20% of the people either going into retirement or trying to retire right now have less than $5,000. 39% have less than $25,000. And more than 50%, 51% have less than a total of $50,000 set aside for retirement. And if you take all the baby boomers together, Mitt Romney's been in the news lately, so we know he's wealthy. And we know he's a baby boomer. And he's got money set aside. So you take the Mitt Romneys, and you go all the way down to the youngest or the poorest individual.
Have nothing.
And have nothing. And you average it all together. So the average among all baby boomers is less than $80,000 total for retirement. So these are people that are getting ready to retire. And the statistic for retirement says if you make it to 65, you have a 50-50 chance of living to 92. And that the oldest and biggest growing demographics in the United States today is people over the age of 100. That demographic is growing faster than any other. So you got to take a look at this. If you and your spouse retire together, you retire at 65, one of you is going to live to past 92. That means whatever you've set aside has got to last you 27 years, and you've got to have twice as much money every 18 years. Inflation says you got to have twice as much money every 18 years. So whatever you retire with, not only does it have to increase, it's got to be able to double.
Those are probably actually generous numbers right now. Look at the last 4 years. That is scary. What's happened just a few years ago, the price of gas versus today, which is kind of an insidious hidden tax that you don't think about, inflation. Wow.
We'll talk a little bit more about that. The average is $80,000. So how long will that $80,000 going to last?
So the question is, can I retire before I die?
Yeah, that's a big deal too. So how long is that $80,000 going to last? If you can live on $1,800 a month, it'll last you 4 years. Okay. If you can live on $3,500 a month, it'll last you 2 years. If you can live on $5,000 to $6,000 a month, it'll last you 14, 15 months. That's not the worst part of it. But because of current economic conditions, because of what's going on, because of the gas prices, because of food prices, because of inflation right now, 51% of baby boomers are not even saving a single dime for retirement. They stopped saving. 51% putting nothing away. And it gets worse. 61% of all baby boomers cannot even get $1,000 cash without having to borrow it. Either putting it on a credit card or taking it from their IRA or 401k before it's time. 61% can't even get their hands on $1,000 of cash. Right now in the United States, we have 12.54 million people unemployed. Who cares what the argument about the rate is? Let's talk about the actual number. The actual number of people is 12.54 million people unemployed. 5 million people have been unemployed for more than 2 years. There's 46.2 million people in poverty in the United States, which is the greatest number we've ever had in the history of the country. It's even a greater number than the Great Depression. We have 47 million people on food stamps, and we have a national debt of over $16 trillion. And then in the last 4 years, household income has dropped by $4,000. So we've seen gasoline prices go up. In November of 2008, I had to take a trip out to Reno, and I drove. And I saw a sign on the side of the road that said gasoline $1.28 a gallon. And I'm like, okay, somebody forgot to take down a sign. It's like 2 or 3 years old.
Business,
yeah, it's a closed business. And it was in Ely, Nevada. But there was another sign that said $1.28 a gallon. Okay, I'm going to pull in and just see if these guys are joking, telling the truth. So I actually stopped in Ely, Nevada. There's 2 gas stations right there, and they were selling gas for $1.28 a gallon. So obviously I filled up. Now I'm upset because I actually filled up in Wendover and got to Ely. But on the way back through, I decided I'm going to wait to get gas. And I actually kept the receipt. I paid $1.28 a gallon for gas in November of 2008. And right now, the national average is $3.86. It is a hidden tax because it causes everything to go up. A hamburger in 2008, I was a chef a long time ago, so I pay attention to food prices. I actually shop food for our family and cook, and I could buy hamburger on sale for 89 cents a pound. Now it's running from $3 to $4 a pound in 4 years. So you take the fact that middle class income, actual income by families, has decreased by $4,000 over the last 4 years, and that prices have gone up. Do you know that you have to make, in 2013, $11,000 more than you're making right now, just to have the same standard of living that you did in 2008.
It's a lot of extra money to stay even.
Well, not only that, where are you going to go to get it? You're going to walk into your employer and say, I would like a $1,000 a month raise because I don't want my lifestyle to drop. I don't want my standard of living to go down. Which employer is going to give you a $12,000 a year raise?
Not too many.
Virtually none for most people.
Usually the story is, well, the bad news is we're not laying off anybody. The good news is if everybody will accept a 8% cut,
then everybody can stay employed.
Yeah, something like that.
So where can the baby boomers go? Where can they go? So let's talk about what their choices are with money and finances. Are they going to go to the stock market? Well, 51% aren't even playing in that arena. They're putting no money aside.
What's the percentage of people that win in the stock market?
Well, the amount of time it takes to get your money. So baby boomers aren't going to play in that arena. Okay, they can't. So what about the bonds?
That's scarier, isn't it?
It's safer, right? Isn't it a debt?
Unless it's in a California country,
Yeah.
or city, I mean.
Yeah, it's supposed to be safer, but the rates are lower than inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So you put your money in there and it just loses value at a lower rate. So we go, okay, what about a bank or a savings account or a CD? Well, that's even worse than a bond. We go, okay, we hear on the news all the time, what about gold? We can go buy gold because gold is an anti-inflation. It's a risk against inflation. So let's buy gold. My son and I were in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago for a convention where I was presenting at, and we decided that we would stop at the Pawn Star place. We were actually driving through town, and here's that Pawn Star place that everybody sees on TV, the pawn guys. So we stopped in right there right now, and here's what's kind of funny. They were selling 1-ounce gold coins for $2,200 a coin. Do you know that that's $500 over market price?
Sounds like Las Vegas.
You know, if you go online and buy it, you can buy it for $1,700 an ounce right now. So you can buy a 1-ounce double eagle gold American coin for $1,700. Well, we just already found out that most baby boomers don't even have $1,000 in cash. So 61%. So who gets to play in that commodities market? Well, it's not for the baby boomers. So gold and wheat and corn and oil commodities is a non-issue for them. It's a non-starter. What if they kept their money in cash?
Oh, it's like a snowman. If you got a snowball and it's in the summertime, that's what your cash is doing. You can just see it melt away.
I was talking with a group that's in Hungary, the country of Hungary. They had their currency devalued by 40% this year. Their inflation rate was 40%. So you keep your money in cash. With your analogy, their summer was a lot hotter than ours.
Yeah, melting.
You know.
Yeah.
The other choice is, what about real estate? Can they invest in real estate? Well, who here wants to go right now and buy a house and try to flip it or fix it up and spend the money to fix it up and resell it and try to get a loan? You got to understand that's a non-issue for them right now. We haven't seen the bottom of the real estate market. They have another choice. They can start their own business.
Mm-hmm.
And traditionally, when you start your own business, according to Entrepreneur Magazine, just to start a single small mom and pop store in a strip mall costs $30,000 just to open your door.
That's believable.
So who has $30,000? According to the Restaurant Association, the minimum cost to open a restaurant right now is $487,000. Now, I was a part owner of a small restaurant chain. We had 5 restaurants. And it cost us, and this was 20 years ago, it cost us $500,000 to open a restaurant, and we didn't even own the land or the building. So we got somebody else to build the building and lease it to us, but it still cost us $500,000 because we had equipment that we had to put in there that wasn't part of the building lease. We had to have inventory and food. We had to have employees and training, and we were out $500,000 in hopes that somebody would walk through our door. So we go, okay, I want a better chance. Because, you know, I actually cringe. I literally do. I cringe when I drive by and somebody's opening a store or a restaurant or something new right now.
It is a gamble.
It is. Because I know how much money they had to fork out to do it. And they probably used all of their life savings. And they probably used some of their friends' life savings and parents or things like that on this gamble that they would open a store in hopes that somebody would walk in the door. So I cringe because I know what the likelihood of that success is. So we go, okay, I want a little bit better odds. I'll buy a franchise. What are franchise costs? If you want to open a lodging franchise right now, minimum investment is $4 million. I'll do a restaurant. Well, minimum investment right now is $700,000 for franchises. And this comes from Franchise Magazine. What about fast food franchises? Well, That starts at $250,000 and goes up. So don't expect to get a McDonald's for $250,000. Okay, I'll do an auto repair, a Jiffy Lube or something like that. Well, you need at least $200,000 to $300,000 to open one of those. And then for every dollar that walks in the door, you have to send a portion of that off the top to the franchise company, just to have their name on the side of the building. So for most baby boomers, franchises are not an option. So there really are two options for baby boomers. Option number one is they can continue to work. Now, most likely that's not going to be where they're at right now, because employers want to reduce costs. So when you start getting up there in age, they want to reduce and eliminate your position and give it to somebody younger where they can pay a lot less. That happens all the time.
Half as old and half as much.
Yeah. And so they know they have more years out of them too. I mean,
plus, if they let you go, then they won't have to give you retirement and benefits. So,
and some of those other things. The choice with baby boomers is they can still work, but guess where they're going to work? Walmart and McDonald's. You know that McDonald's has a program right now that they want to hire retired senior citizens. Here's the reason why. Is they're more reliable than the teenagers because the seniors have to be there. You got to understand that. They don't want to be there. They have to be there. They know that they're not going anywhere because the turnover ratio to McDonald's right now is 100% every 90 days. They have a high turnover ratio because a teenager will go, I want to go on a date Friday. Oh, I'm supposed to work? I quit. That's what happens. I'll go to Burger King or I'll go to Wendy's or Hardee's or who else next. And they'll get hired because there's needful. They would rather hire a retired senior citizen. Well, I can tell you the senior citizens don't necessarily like giving you your cart when you walk through the door at Walmart. They're there because they have to be there. That is a legitimate option. It's not the option I would choose or suggest they choose. So if you have to take a look at it, the only real clear choice or option that a baby boomer has to get the supplemental income they need or the income they need to retire is to join a legitimate network marketing company. So where else can they go and start their own business for under $1,000 or $2,000 and have an overhead of less than $200 a month and have the potential for a huge amount or to make a livable wage or even a retirement wage or even change a lifestyle or get the income they want? Where else can you go for such a small investment to have that potential growth based on your sweat equity?
Well, another thing I love about network marketing is risk. Regular business, you're putting a lot of capital at risk. You're putting lots and lots of hours at risk. If you misstep, it could just be catastrophic. And something like NECAN, the years I've been in NECAN, each day as I go out, my risk is basically somebody might say no. And that's as bad as it can get. Regular business, how bad can it get? Horrible. NECAN, network marketing, worst thing that'll happen is somebody says no to you. That's as bad as it gets. And if you get a little bit of fortitude inside you and kind of look around and realize that a waitress or another person, they run that risk when they ask if you would like dessert every day. If you can be as strong as they can, you can be good in this business. And then the thing I love about it also with risk is it's a numbers game. If you find a company that really does have a good product that people need and the trend is in the right direction, like we have health products, the wellness industry, long-term, foreseeable future, huge growth ahead of us. So all of the things that we look at, they're in our favor. The only thing left is what you want to do with it. And if you just talk to enough people, then it's just powerful how just talking to somebody else, and just doing that practice, accumulation can be astonishing of just those little good actions every day. Changes everything.
And you can also mitigate the no's. You can lessen the potential of no's in network marketing. And first of all, going back to the choice is they need to be part of a legitimate network marketing company. And NECAN is a legitimate network marketing company. Been around for 37 years. They're in close to now 40 different countries. They have made multiple millionaires. Here's a stat I read the other day that came out that says in the last 10 to 15 years, network marketing in the United States has created 200,000 millionaires.
Wow. Now this is industry-wide.
This is industry-wide. Okay? that inside the United States, network marketing over the last 2 decades has created 200,000 millionaires. And there's no other industry that can say that. Where can you go for a very little investment and sweat equity to get to that potential? Dave talked about your only risk is someone telling you no. Well, you can mitigate that too. See, there's something in network marketing that's called the scenario disaster. Scenario disaster says you want to go share what you've learned. You're enthusiastic about what you've learned. You just joined Nikin. You like the product. They got great water filtration. They got the lights. They've got the wellness systems and things like that, and you want to share it. But you go out and you try to share it. And what happens is your enthusiasm causes curiosity. Curiosity causes the person who you're sharing it with to ask you questions. Now, because you're brand new into a business, anytime someone asks you a question, you've got to answer it. And a lot of times you'll answer incomplete or wrong because you just don't know everything because you're brand new. And what happens is now they jump to a conclusion and the result is disaster. So the risk is they say no. Well, you can mitigate that risk by 80%. Because in network marketing, you're not left by yourself. There's always a mentor or a support organization that's above you in that company that's designed to help you. And it may not be the person that introduced you, but you can always go up and find someone in that organization as a support or a mentor. Here's how you mitigate the risk. If you introduce your potential client or your potential business partner to your sponsor or to your mentor, you mitigate that risk by 80%.
Wow.
Because the mentor knows what it is. For example, Dave has been successful in network marketing too. So how many people new in the company would like to introduce their potential client or their potential associate or business partner to the best salesmen or the best people in the company? It doesn't have to be you, Dave. It could be any person that's really good at understanding the product. So if you're talking about the Kinko Light or something like that, or you're talking about someone that wants to change and supplement their income, by introducing and bringing in a credible third party and introducing them properly, you can mitigate that risk of a no by 80%.
It is huge.
Here's what it comes down to. Now, this is an industry average, is if you want to make an extra $60,000 to $90,000 over the next 3 years.
Okay, so accumulate $60,000 to $90,000
total. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Accumulate $60,000 to $90,000 more than you currently have right now over the next 3 years. Don't stop it there. You can use this and
you're allowed
more.
You might even like that.
Yeah, but here's how you can accumulate an extra $60,000 to $90,000 over the next 3 years. Is if you're in network marketing, you're in Nikin, and you bring one new business partner in with you, one new associate into your business with you, and you do that again the next month. You bring one new a month. At the end of 3 years, you'll have accumulated an extra $60,000 to $90,000 in income.
So along that line, let's say you bring somebody in, industry-wide averages, what is that person worth to you?
Industry-wide average says for every new associate you bring into your business, it's worth $360 to the person or upline that brought them in.
But if you're smart, you can probably up that number a little bit.
Yeah.
If you take care of them and train them.
Yeah, the average is $360. If you start now, and you bring one person in this next month, you'll make an extra $360. And you bring another person in next month, that's $360. So you do that for the first year, you take $360 times 12. Okay, and so that's what you're accumulating. And then if you help them stay, the turnover ratio in network marketing industry-wide is 54%. Now, some people might freak out, 54% turnover. Do you know that retail business has a 51% annual turnover ratio? So retail business, going into a Macy's or going into a Neiman Marcus, their turnover ratio is almost the same as network marketing.
How many people register for college and how many get a college degree?
Yeah. I can tell you this.
All the people that want to is basically the answer.
An MBA has a 100% turnover ratio every few years, don't they? We got to get over the concept of recruiting into our business. It's a positive thing. Doesn't the NBA and the NFL have recruiting parties? Don't people sometimes go down to see the Seattle Seahawks or the Lakers or the Jazz or something, they go to those buildings to watch them recruit. Because they have a whole team that's all they do is recruit. All they do is bring people into their business. Neiman Marcus has it. Macy's has that. Your local grocery store has it because they know what their turnover ratio is. McDonald's has it. They have a 100% turnover ratio every 90 days. Network marketing has a 54% annual turnover ratio. Here's the deal. If you can keep them 20% longer, if you can reduce your turnover ratio from 54% down to the 30s.
And this is a skill you could learn.
Yeah, because the reason why people leave isn't because they don't want to do it. It's because they don't know how. The number one reason people leave a business like that is lack of communication. Number two is lack of training. They don't know what's going on and don't know what to do. So you don't have to be an all-star. These are skills that are learned. Mm-hmm. If you notice we said skills, not talents. Talents are innate. Somebody's talented in that. And most talents, by the way, are skills that have just been practiced over and over again.
True.
Anybody can learn a skill. So you can learn the skills that you need to keep them longer. But all we're saying is if you bring one person into your business a month, one new a month, over the next 3 years, you can make $60,000 to $90,000. Now, how do you make it easier? Introduce your upline. Mitigate the no's. Introduce your sponsor, your mentor, to your potential new associate, and even do it for your customers. Because the people that brought you in or sponsor you in the business or that's been around understand the products and they've seen what the products do and they can speak more with passion about the products. Again, there is an absolute need out there for the baby boomers to do something. And if you don't suggest that they come in and work with you, where are they going to be in 5 years? They're going to be in a worse situation with a greater need.
It's fun to have a business where what you do is help other people change their lives. And to multiply that, you're helping other people help other people.
Yeah.
Teaching people how to teach people how to teach those people how to fish. And you can change the world with something like that.
You can do that. There's an absolute need for it. There's a need for the Nikin products in the wellness industry because, again, the baby boomers are fighting age. Mm-hmm. And there's 80 million potential customers in that arena. Mm-hmm. And by the way, people get older every year.
Every day.
You got to understand, though, that you have an ongoing customer base there. There's a need for increasing income, and we just gave you a formula how to do that. Now, you don't have to stop with one. If you want to make more than $90,000 over a 3-year period of time, $60,000 to $90,000, let's say you want to make $180,000. Well, increase it from 1 to 2. If you want to go from $180,000 to $360,000, there's some of you out there that go, you know what? I want to get to $100,000 a year income. Increase it from 2 to 4. That's it. From 1 to 2 and 2 to 4. And you can be up to, within 3 years, $100,000 a year annual income.
That sounds impossible, but if you think about it, if you can sponsor one person, well, you could sponsor 2. And if you do that again, you could sponsor 3, and it just happens. And I think all of us are familiar with that idea of taking a penny and doubling it every day for a month. Amazing thing that happens. And yet if you kind of look at it at the beginning, 1 penny, 2 penny, 4 penny, 8 penny, 16 penny, 32, 64, right there, I think that was about a week. And if you kind of quickly add that up in your head, you got a little over $1. And you think, that's just not right. And yet at the end of the month, we're talking about 1 million, 2 million. In fact, if you go from a 30-day month to a 31-day month, one more double. Imagine if we could have a 32-month and double it again. It's just astonishing. And what's fantastic is it's very identical math, the very same progression, and it's just allowing it to accumulate longer. And the thing that's wrong with this business is just too easy to quit. And so most people do. But if you get in and anxiously and actively talk to people and allow yourself to go through that full time period so the numbers can compound, it will happen. It's a done deal. The math works.
Sometimes that math gets scary to people.
A fun kind of scary.
Yeah, or they don't believe it.
Yeah.
Anybody can believe I can get 1. Again, we go back, how do you do it? You simply introduce them to your sponsor and you let your sponsor, your upline, or your mentor recruit them for you. Doing an introduction is much easier than than trying to convince someone to come into a business.
Well, people pay the big bucks for a franchise versus just starting their own business because they're following a track to run on. Something proven, and if something has happened again and again a certain way, it's very predictable. And so if you follow their proven game plan, don't try to invent a new Big Mac, do exactly what they're telling you to do, you'll probably make it. And the thing I love about Nikken, it's a franchise without the franchise fee. You have the support. They've created an arena that we can perform inside and follow, and we've got wonderful training that's ongoing, and it's for free. Wow, what a deal.
Yeah, and it's duplicatable. So, again, there's a need for it out there. People are crying out for what you have. Okay? There's an opportunity for you yourself, to make the money you need. And we just shared with you really one of the best secrets that people need to understand is how to mitigate the no's. Whoever can introduce to their upline the most people, the most amount of time, the fastest, makes the most amount of money.
It's that simple. Get paid what you're worth.
And now, with the advent of the internet and what's going on, it doesn't matter where you're at.
In fact, years ago, before the internet, there was a movie called 6 Degrees, and it talked about how they did this study, and pretty much it was mathematically shown that we were interconnected by 6 people or less with almost anybody else in the world. And because of the internet, the social media and everything, it's about 4.7 now.
Yeah,
it's
gone
less
down.
than 5. And so the world is getting smaller. And a business like this, it can accelerate with the new tools we have. Things can happen really quick.
Thank you for joining us. One of the reasons I'm up here in Coeur d'Alene with Dave today is the platform that we built that members of Nikken are using. That's the Bojabby platform. And what that does is allow for now video communication across the world. But here's what's unique, with no specialized equipment. Years ago, if you wanted to do a video conference, you got to have special machines, you got to have special servers, and they had to have the same equipment on the other end and all that kind of stuff. So now you can mitigate that no by 80%, because now you can introduce them to your upline anytime, anywhere in the world with video communication off of any device. An iPhone, an iPad, an Android, a Galaxy, a Samsung, an Apple, a Mac, a IBM machine. It doesn't matter. We were talking with a person earlier today, and she's out in Vermont, and she was talking about how her team is better connected, how they're recruiting more, and how their communication is better because of the Bojabby Nikken platform.
Powerful stuff.
Thank you.